It's Wednesday, September 18, 2019, and this is Globespan 24x7 News. My name is Samuel Suknanan, coming to you live from Georgetown, Guyana. Here are the major headlines for today. GCOM chair to deliver decision on election timeframe tomorrow. President awaits certificate of readiness from GCOM to name elections date. Leopold Street residents create ruckus over man shot and killed by police. The government will have no legal or legitimate status from tomorrow, says former AG. And truck driver charged for causing death of 7-year-old girl in Agricola. Over to you, Whitney.
Thank you, Samuel. Good evening. I'm Whitney Prasad with the headlines for news in the diaspora, in the region, and on the international scene. 130 Bahamians denied entry into the U.S. despite Dorian devastation. Immigration wage gap challenging Canada's dollars by the billions. India bans e-cigarettes as global backlash speeds up. And Guyana joins the world in Walk the Talk campaign. Join me in a short while for these and other stories. Now here's Kingsley Bryan with the headlines for today's sports news.
Thank you, Whitney. Here's a look at what's happening in sports. The first ever Geico pre-chess tourney is on this weekend. And in CPL news, the Patriots outshine the Knight Riders in a stunning super over decider. And internationally, Liverpool eats humble pie after suffering defeat to Napoli. Back to you, Samuel.
Thanks, Kingsley. We'll take a look at some of the major headlines in news today. Following yet another meeting between the chairwoman and commissioners of the Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM, on Wednesday, it was announced that GCOM's chair, Justice Claudette Singh, will make a definitive decision on the timeline on Thursday. PPPC nominated Commissioner Says Gunraj, who opted to withhold his comments, relayed to members of the media following the meeting.
I'm not willing to say anything except repeating this. The chairman will render a decision at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow.
However, in his comments, government-nominated Commissioner Vincent Alexander explained that the main concern of the chairperson was the timeframes attached to the various processes.
I think her concern all along has been the question of the timeframes, the various elements, and how we could curtail those timeframes to get the earliest possible done. I think that's been her major concern all along.
The commission is expected to meet again at 10:30 on Thursday, where it has been announced that the GCOM chair will make a decision. President David Granger, speaking on the sidelines of an accreditation ceremony on Wednesday morning, said the delay with the naming of an elections date is also resulting in grave unease for his government, and they have advocated for an early election. The president said he acted with due diligence to the Constitution of Guyana.
And no one could be more anxious than I am to ensure the elections are held as quickly as possible. It is very uncomfortable for me as a head of state to labor under the restrictions of an interim administration. I have not accepted, apart from my health, I have not accepted any invitations to go to foreign countries. Many of my ministers have had their travel restricted. We cannot plan a budget. We cannot bring a budget to Parliament. We cannot engage in certain types of projects which are regarded as irreversible. And the whole business of government has been slowed because we are obedient to and compliant with the instructions of the CCJ last July. So it's uncomfortable for me to remain in this condition.
In response to the possibility of being provided with an elections timeline by the Elections Commission, the president noted on Wednesday that if provided with such absolute readiness is paramount before the proclamation of an elections date.
The second benchmark, of course, is that the schedule is one which is achievable. I like to refer to what I call the Abuja syndrome, where, as you know, 2 o'clock in the morning, the Nigerian Election Commission said, oh, we can't make it. So people had already started traveling to the polling stations. I don't want that. I want the second benchmark is they must give me more or less a certificate of readiness.
President Granger remained insistent that the concern of his government was and still is the sanctity of the list of electors, Since there is no secret, there have been issues arising from the present construct of the list in recent elections. Another issue that may present itself is the lack of funding for the Commission to continue its extraordinary work plan. To this end, the President said he always left the door open should certain eventualities like this arise.
Yes, you asked me if I see that. I'm a seafarer man. And I have not prorogued Parliament. I have not dissolved Parliament. I have ensured that the major institutions remain intact. I am aware of the constitutional requirement to return to Parliament to seek an extension, and I see that in the final analysis this will have to be done.
The President concluded that he is of the belief that his government will return to Parliament once an agreement is reached with the leader of the opposition. Until such time, all the independent institutions remains intact until they are so dissolved by him. However, opposition leader Barrett Jagdew has been insistent that the PPBC will not return to the National Assembly to allow for an extension of the elections timeline. Today marks 9 months since the opposition People's Progressive Party Civic (PPPC) tabled a motion of no confidence against a coalition government in the National Assembly, which was successfully passed. Several legal battles ensued, which ended with the Caribbean Court of Justice ruling that the motion was valid and that the government had to assume an interim position until elections are held and a new head of state is sworn in. Former Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal spoke with Globespan 24x7 News and offered his take on the situation as it stands.
Whatever clothing of constitutionality and legitimacy the coalition government may have enjoyed will come to an end. And the life of the government having come to an end, the government will be entered into a realm of unconstitutionality and illegality. What that means is that the country has no legal and legitimate president, no legal and legitimate prime minister, no legal and legitimate vice presidents nor ministers. So we are entering into deeply turmoil constitutional waters.
Nandlal, who serves as an opposition MP, said he's unaware of any parallel situation anywhere in the Commonwealth in the past 50 years where a government has allowed its legitimate tenure to expire.
That extension of time was never sought by this government and was never obtained. It could have been obtained within 3 months after the passage of the no confidence motion by engaging the opposition to go to the National Assembly and extend the life of the government and the Parliament by a 2/3 vote. That did not happen. So the executive life has expired. The Parliament's life has expired as well, because the Parliament's life is always connected to the life of the executive. In fact, the two of them go together. When one expires, the other one automatically expires. And that is why a president, in fixing a date for elections, is also required to dissolve the Parliament, because you can't go to an election with a sitting Parliament. So you don't have a Parliament, you don't have a government in Guyana. The only branch of government currently with some validity is the judiciary.
Nandlal said, as this unfolds, the consequences to flow from this will be diverse. In presenting his letters of credence to President David Granger this morning, new ambassador of the European Union to Ghana, Fernando Pons Canto, offered to provide assistance in the next election, while noting that the EU will support Ghana meeting all relevant standards in that process.
As your country approaches the next electoral date, I am happy to reiterate the EU's availability to accompany your efforts. As we know, we agree on the importance of ensuring transparent, inclusive, and timely processes meeting all relevant standards.
The EU ambassador reminded that it has been a main development partner to Ghana over the past 4 decades. According to him, during this period, The EU has contributed in a very substantial manner to support multiple sectors of the Guyanese society, such as education, health, agriculture, infrastructure development, strengthening of governance, institutional capacity building, and trade facilitation as well. In congratulating and welcoming the ambassador to Guyana, President Granger said Guyana values its partnership with the European Union. Diplomatic relations were established in 1975 and are premised on the common principles of equality, mutual respect, and the rule of law and tolerance.
Guyana and the European Union have been collaborating within the ambit of the successive Lomé Conventions and the current African, Caribbean, and Pacific Group of States ACP-EU Cotonou Partnership Agreement. These agreements establish a platform on which to construct a new generation of partnership and mutual benefits. These agreements will assist in the realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, including Sustainable Development Goals to which Guyana is unequivocally committed.
The president said Guyana remains strongly committed to building upon its long-standing relationship and shared commitments with the EU in the post-Cotonou period. In other news, Danian welcomed the driver behind the wheels of the truck that killed 7-year-old Ciara Benjamin, today appeared before the Georgetown Magistrates Court to answer to the charge of dangerous driving almost 3 months after the incident occurred. The 39-year-old man, who resides at Turkine on the east coast of Demerara, stood in front of Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan and pleaded not guilty to the charge, which read that on June 1, 2019, at Agricola Public Road, he drove motor lorry GWW 962 in a dangerous manner, resulting in the death of Benjamin. Police prosecutor Gordon Mansfield told the court that on the day in question, at around 16 hours 10, Welcome was proceeding north on the western carriageway of the Agricola Public Road at a fast rate when he lost control of the lorry. It was alleged that he swerved into the pathway of little Ciara, who was standing on the road's median with her babysitter waiting to cross. She was pinned onto the truck and her body crushed instantly, killing her. Attorney at law James Bond represented the accused and disclosed to the court that the family of the dead child reached out for support. However, his client is unable to work because his truck was set on fire at the scene of the accident. He told the court that his client is set to undergo surgery due to injuries he sustained at the hands of persons at the accident scene. The prosecutor did not object to bail, but the accused was asked to lodge his passport. His license was also suspended. He was released on $500,000 bail, while the matter was adjourned until September 23, 2019. Join us after these messages for more news with Shakima Day.
We would like to ask all of our faithful viewers to kindly like and follow Globespan 24x7 Facebook page and subscribe to Globespan 24x7 YouTube channel to receive up-to-date notifications of when we are live. Globespan 24x7 has vacancies for full-time positions such as reporters, newscasters, and news editors. Persons serious about joining a new and dynamic news team are asked to send their application to careers@globespantechnology.com. TravelSpan is pleased to announce special fares from New York to Guyana for Christmas. Seats are available to travel, and depending on which dates you choose, fares range from $849 to $1169. These are limited block seats on American Airlines non-stop flight from JFK to Guyana. Call 718-845-0437. That's 718-845-0437. Or book online at travelspan.com. TravelSpan does have a payment plan, so travel plans, call TravelSpan.
Amro's Travel Service is pleased to support Globespan 24/7 broadcasts. We provide travel solutions via our 4 locations in Trinidad. Chaguanas at 665-3383, Valpa 645-1604, Port of Spain 625-0800, and San Fernando at 652-4789. Remember, when you travel, Amro's is the way to go.
Welcome back to Globespan 24/7 News. Thanks for staying tuned. We'll tell you now that residents of the Pole Street work in Ross, Georgetown earlier today blocked off the street and burnt tires over the alleged shooting death of one of its residents. Globespan 24/7 News was on scene and filed this report.
It was a chaotic scene earlier today at Paul Street work in West Georgetown when residents came out to express anger at the shooting death of one of their fellow residents by police officers. Not only were the streets blocked by the residents, but they were also seen engaged in burning tires, firing gunshots into the air, and shattering glass bottles. The residents are demanding justice for 35-year-old Odingo Williams, who was allegedly shot and killed at the hands of the police yesterday. Globespan 24/7 News understands that the man was on his way home to his wife when he was reportedly shot by the police for reasons unknown. Sister of the now dead man, Omisha Humphrey, disclosed that they will not rest until justice is served.
What's going on to your wife? He was going on to your wife. He ain't do no crime or nothing. They shoot you up, and when they realize that he's dead, they ignore him. And the background by she. Yes. And now I can see. And what say? We were straight now. She feeling it. We need justice.
The distraught wife of the man relayed to the media what occurred at the time of the incident.
Justice, so we need justice. That's why the police were killing on the bed. The police were killing. We want the gold and the money back. And the motorbike, the yellow motorbike and the ID. We want them.
Family members were unclear as to what prompted the alleged shooting incident, but remain firm to continue their cry for justice. Globespan 24/7 will bring a later update into this incident.
For Globespan 24/7 News, Shakima Day. You'll hear now that the wife of 39-year-old taxi driver Lal Bachan has filed legal proceedings through attorney at law Anil Nandlal for compensation from the state over the unlawful death of her husband, who met his demise at the Sadi police station. The woman, Samantha Bachan of Maria's Lodge, Essequibo Coast, filed a lawsuit on behalf of herself and her 4 children, all of whom were solely cared for by her husband. It was previously reported that on June 28, 2019, the now dead man was arrested and transported to the Sadi police station, where he was placed in a cell. He later died on the night of June 30th. Nandlal, in an invited comment, disclosed to this news class that the family had wrote several letters to the commissioner and ministers before any action was taken.
Circumstances under which he died were very suspicious. Then the autopsy report came out, and that confirmed that he died of multiple injuries sustained while he was in police custody. Now, the information that I have is that he was in custody alone. There was no other person in the lockup at the time. There were no other persons in the vicinity of the police station other than police officers. Therefore, a strong inference arises that the injuries must have been caused by the police officers. The law imposes a duty of care on the police in respect of those whom they take into custody. If that duty of care is violated, injuries are sustained, and or death results, then the police would be liable, and by extension the state.
In the court documents seen by Globespan 24/7, the claimant is seeking compensation for the death and personal injuries sustained, negligence of the Guyana Police Force, breach of statutory duty owed to the deceased by the Guyana Police Force, for the Guyana Police Force's violation of the deceased's fundamental right to not be subjected to torture or to inhuman or degrading punishment as guaranteed in Article 141 of the Constitution of Guyana, for the unlawful deprivation of life of the deceased, a citizen of Guyana, in violation of the deceased's fundamental right to the protection of his life as guaranteed by Article 138 of the Constitution of Guyana, along with exemplary and special damages. Head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Dr. Vincent Adams, says that unrestricted access to oil rigs is necessary so as to ensure proper environmental and safety standards are adhered to. Speaking at a recent conference, the EPA director noted that regulators must be able to make unexpected or unannounced visits to operations of the oil and gas operators.
There should be no prevention or stiff arming of government employees or people who provide oversight to go on that rig at any time. Of course, it's the responsibility of us, not anytime we go, it's not to interfere or interrupt the work. But we should not be prevented to visit the site at any time.
Dr. Adams said it is important to guard against complacency in these types of environments.
We have to monitor, which means that we have to be out there. Now, ideally, we would love to be out there 24/7. But if at this current time we're not prepared to do that, it doesn't mean that they're not operating safely. They're operating safely through the conditions of the permit. We have to trust also the operators. And I guarantee you the operators do not want for anything to happen. They know that if anything happens, their operations are going to be shut down. And it's not going to be, first of all, in terms of the economics of the company or the branding of the company. So you trust, but you still have to verify.
While he acknowledged that the requisite local safety standards are not in place yet to really monitor operations entirely, he stated that this should not be seen as there is no proper oversight.
But we do adopt international standards in the interim. Of course, we do not just blindly adopt these standards. We look at the standards and see how they apply and even make adjustments, etc. But we do go through that process of making sure that what we judge to be safe and environmentally sound, that's what we impose on the contractors. In the meantime, however, we are in the process of very, very aggressively working towards getting to that point when we will have developed our local standard.
A national oil spill plan is still being developed in the multi-agency collaboration led by the Civil Defense Commission. The oil spill prevention strategy has been in development for some time. The last recorded environmental disaster was a cyanide spill in 1995 in the Essequibo River. We'll tell you now that Deputy Mayor of Georgetown, Alfred Mentor, has presented a 2040 Master Development Plan for the capital city. This initiative is expected to see a major transformation within Georgetown. The Deputy Mayor told the press that the comprehensive information disclosed forms part of a larger report from the country's National Capital Planning Commission. According to him, it will see the collaboration of the Mayor and City Council, the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, among other governmental agencies and entities, working to achieve one goal. The vision of this plan speaks to where Georgetown is today and what we intend to achieve, Mentor said. The plan proposes critical development in several areas, including geographically, the expansion of the Georgetown beyond Cummings Lodge and Agricola. The plan suggests riverfront development, which connects the riverfront to other public spaces. The Deputy Mayor noted that the project proposes the zoning of land in 5 categories: industrial, residential, commercial, institutional, recreational, and mixed zones. Furthermore, the document outlines details to transform Georgetown into a city that is green and promotes the safety and security of its populace, to consider traffic management, road designs, bridges, and interactions. An important aspect of the plan is that it seeks to encourage investors and promote business. We'll tell you now that the 3rd annual Empowered Leadership Conference opened today on a high note, with the U.S. Ambassador Sarah Ann Lynch emphasizing the need for women to be involved in changing the world. We'll tell you more in this report.
Held under the theme Powerful, Transitioning from Inspiration to Action, the Wheelie Caribbean Women's Leadership Conference began with a bang earlier today. The conference held at the Arthur Chang Convention Center saw the attendance of a number of businesswomen in Guyana, and the Caribbean, who eagerly awaited empowerment from a wide range of speakers, including Beyoncé's publicist Yvette Noel Schreier and Ethiopian Princess Ariana McKenna. U.S. Ambassador Sarah Ann Lynch, in her remarks, urged women to become more involved in shaping the world. She stressed that women are humble superhumans who have the ability to transform the world.
You run companies, you deliver healthcare services, you implement policies that affect every level of society, and you take care of your families too. As Abigail just described, that is sometimes a hardship to do all of that at the same time. But that is why I'm so thrilled to hear her theme, or the theme, for this year's conference is Powerful. Just love that name. That's just great. Because that's exactly right. It is the power of women which will tip the scale, in my opinion, to a Guyana and a Caribbean that is prosperous, well-governed, and secure.
The ambassador firmly noted that when women are hired, businesses are bound to succeed.
And as women, we bring a lot. Don't underestimate what you bring. We bring a lot. We are one half of humanity, and there is so much data that supports the notion when you bring women into the political and economic life of a country, the GDP goes up and poverty rates go down. It's proven. Yes, thank you. It's proven that companies with more women in higher management positions achieve higher profits. It's simple, really. Hire women and you will succeed.
Despite the focus being on women, men were also included in the mix, as a number of men were seated in the audience. The conference aims to provide women with the tools and knowledge they need to start and grow their business. It concludes tomorrow. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day.
As members of the government and diplomatic corps joined Ambassador of Chile to Guyana, Patricio Becker, in celebration of its 209th independence anniversary in Chile on Tuesday at the Marriott Hotel, the Guyana government asked for cooperation to be stepped up in certain key areas. President David Granger highlighted that Guyana is interested in partnering with the Republic of Chile in the areas of petroleum, mining, disaster management, and the environment. He said that more opportunities are available for partnership, and these must be pursued as the two countries share common concerns.
Excellencies, Guyana and Chile have enjoyed excellent relations since the establishment of formal diplomatic ties on the 22nd of July 1971. Relations between our two states have fostered cooperation in the field of diplomacy, language training, geochemical, geological mapping, immigration, port security, and transportation. Guyana looks forward to strengthening bilateral cooperation with Chile, especially in the mining and petroleum sectors, disaster management, and environmental protection.
President Granger also congratulated the government of Chile on the hosting of its 25th session of the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Santiago in December 2019. The president said Guyana has accepted the invitation to participate at that conference, the objectives of which are in accord with Guyana's Green State Development Strategy, Vision 2040. Meanwhile, the Chilean ambassador said Guyana and Chile's relations over the years have been strengthened through enhanced cooperation between the two countries. He noted areas of collaboration shared between the two countries, such as scholarships offered by CARICOM, by the Chilean Agency for International Cooperation for Development, and Spanish language teaching programs for the Guyana Foreign Service.
Your Excellency, at the regional level, Chile appreciates the cooperation of Guyana into ProSur, an initiative that was created in order to establish a space of regional coordination, cooperation and integration, and whose pro tempore president has fallen to my country. Chile now is working with the different foreign ministries to agree, develop and coordinate a working agenda to consolidate the work of this new regional entity.
He expressed his country's desire to contribute to the future to the improvement of democracy, the establishment of public policies for economic and social development, and the challenge of climate change. Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Karen Cummins, Vice President and Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs Sydney Alicock, Attorney General and other government ministers, including Speaker of the National Assembly Dr. Barton Scotland and former Prime Minister Samuel Hines, were in attendance. Now let's take a look at our bridge reports. Now let's take a look at our regional and international news with Whitney Prasad.
Thank you, Shakima. And turning our attention to news and details in the diaspora. The Guyanese community in New York will be joining the first ever edition of the Walk to Talk, the Health for All Challenge in the United States, being held over 4 miles in New York Central Park. The walk is also expected to bring together people from all over the world for a celebration of health on the eve of the United Nations General Assembly. The event is free and open to all and will be held on this coming Sunday, September 22nd at 8:30 hours. The World Health Organization has urged participants to ensure that they are physically healthy and prepared for the various activities being offered during the event, ranging from walking or running to enjoying the activities staged at the starting and ending point. You can find more information on this event on the World Health Organization's website. Several men, women, and children from the Bahamas have been denied entry into the U.S. after attempting to flee the devastation by Hurricane Dorian. People from the Caribbean are normally allowed in the U.S. with a visa as long as they fly there, have a passport, and hold a clean police record. This rule was extended to also include boat arrivals amid growing fears that a major humanitarian crisis could now kill thousands in the storm-battered country. But desperate refugees who had boarded a ferry for Florida on Sunday were removed at the last minute, with crew members telling them that they would not be allowed into the U.S. without a visa. An announcement told passengers without such paperwork to disembark. More than 130 people in total were taken off the boat, including several children. The growing wage gap between immigrants and Canadian-born workers has hit a new high, with new Canadian earnings 10% less on average. According to a report coming out of an economic study, the Gulf, which spans age, gender, region, and occupation, is costing the country $50 billion each year. Officials believe that the problem stems from a failure to adequately recognize credentials and work experience abroad. In addition, about 38% of university-educated immigrants aged 25 to 54 work at a job that fits their education level. Now we'll take a short break.
Amro's Travel Service is pleased to support Globespan 24x7 broadcasts. We provide travel solutions via our 4 locations in Trinidad. Chaguanas at 665-3383, Valpa 645-1604, Port of Spain 625-0800, and San Fernando at 652-4789. Remember, when you travel, Amro's is the way to go.
Thanks for staying with us. India has banned the sale of electronic cigarettes starting today and warned of an epidemic among young people in the latest and potentially biggest move globally against vaping over growing health concerns. According to a report, the ban will be imposed through an executive order and will include jail terms of up to 3 years for offenders. The ban cuts off a huge future market for e-cigarette markers at a time when the number of people smoking worldwide is declining. It also covers the production, import, and advertising of e-cigarettes, but not the use of them. It comes at a time when vaping is facing increased scrutiny in other countries as well. Only last week, the United States announced plans to remove flavored e-cigarettes from stores, warning that sweet flavors had drawn millions of children into nicotine addiction. Now taking a look at news in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's defense ministry has shown off what it says is wreckage of drones and cruise missiles that proves Iranian involvement in weekend attacks on 2 oil facilities. According to a BBC report, 18 drones and 7 cruise missiles were fired from a direction that ruled out Yemen as a source. Yemen's Iranian-aligned rebels said they are behind the attacks. Meanwhile, Iran has denied any involvement and warned it would retaliate against any attack that targeted it. The U.S. has stood by its accusation that Iran was behind the attacks, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said after arriving in Saudi Arabia on Wednesday, that this was an act of war. President Donald Trump said the U.S. had many options in response, while enforcing that there is the ultimate option and there are options a lot less than that. He noted that the U.S. is in a very powerful position and ready to use these options. And finally, for news on the international scene, Israel's 2 main political parties were deadlocked today, after an unprecedented repeat election with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu facing an uphill battle to hold on to his position. The election's political kingmaker said he'll insist upon a secular unity government between the Prime Minister and Benny Gantz's blue and white parties, whose based on partial results are currently tied at 32 seats each out of 120 in Parliament. Lieberman said that the one and only option on the table that could spell out trouble for Netanyahu's lengthy rule. Without Lieberman's endorsement, both parties appeared to have fallen well short on securing a parliamentary majority in ideological allies. And that's all for news in the region and around the world. I am Whitney Broussard, broadcasting live from New York. Back to our studio in Guyana.
Thank you, Whitney. We'll now take a short commercial break. Do stay tuned for more news with Samuel Suknandan.
Travelspan is pleased to announce special fares from New York to Guyana for Christmas. Seats are available to travel, and depending on which dates you choose, fares range from $849 to $1169. These are limited block seats on American Airlines non-stop flight from JFK to Guyana. Call 718-845-0437. That's 718-845-0437. Or book online at travelspan.com. Travelspan does have a payment plan, so travel plans, call Travelspan.
Amro's Travel Service is pleased to support Globespan 24x7 broadcasts. We provide travel solutions via our 4 locations in Trinidad. Chaguanas at 665-3383, Valpa 645-1604, Port of Spain 625-0800, and San Fernando at 652-4789. Remember, when you travel, Amro's is the way to go.
Thanks for staying with us. We'll now take a look at what's happening in the world of sport with Kingsley Bryan.
Thanks, Samuel. The first ever Geico Grand Prix Chess Tournament kicks off this Saturday, September 21, at the National Resource Center, Wolford Avenue in Georgetown, and that begins at 13 hours. Organizers have advised that the registration process begins promptly at noon. Junior players are not required to pay an entrance fee, while the seniors are expected to pay an entrance fee of $500 each. This tournament is the first in a series organized by the new executive of the Guyana Chess Federation to scout the very best of Guyanese chess players to represent Guyana at the Chess Olympiad in Russia come 2020. The tournament consists of 8 rounds, and the first 3 rounds in the tournament will be contested this weekend. Round 4 is set for Wednesday, September 25 from 17 hours, and the remaining 4 rounds will conclude the following weekend. Each player will be allotted 90 minutes per round plus 30 additional seconds after each move. Interested players are urged to contact Rashad on 681-6000 or Davian on 656-4032 for more information. And turning to CPL, Carlos Brathwaite is in for high praises after proving his worth as the all-round hero in a stunning St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots Super Over victory against the Trinbago Knight Riders, whose winning start to the 2019 Hero CPL came to an end in the most dramatic possible way. Brathwaite made an impressive 64 from 30 balls to bring the Patriots' pursuit of the Knight Riders to 16 for 4 closer in sight after they slumped to 80 for 4. When the scores ended level at 20 overs each, Brathwaite then hit 2 sixes and a 4 to take the Patriots to 18 for 0 from their super over before bowling 6 nerveless deliveries as the shaken TKR amassed a poor 5 for 1 in reply. In regulation time, Lendl Simmons had continued his run of fine form with a 45-ball 90 that set the Riders on their way to another big total. But another explosive contribution from Evan Lewis at the top of the order and Brathwaite's spectacular intervention got the Patriots within striking range. A required rate that had approached 15 at one stage had been brought right down to 62 runs from the last 30 balls by Brathwaite, before Ali Khan made what seemed the telling contribution with the wickets of Brathwaite and Fabian Allen to end with 2 for 27 from 4 overs on a night when bowlers generally took a pounding. None more so than James Neesham, who bowled the fateful final over of the regular match and conceded a record-breaking 68 from his 4 overs in all. At 80 for 4, the Knight Riders appeared well set for victory, but Brathwaite had other ideas. His second ball disappeared into the stands, and he dealt chiefly in boundaries from then on, bringing up his half-century in just 22 balls and keeping the required rate in check. The Patriots were then able to drag things back nicely, despite Pollard's arrival in the middle. After conceding 136 in the first 11 overs, the Patriots gave up just 20 in the next 4. And internationally, Champions League holder Liverpool was brought crashing back down to earth as it started the defense of its title with a 2-0 defeat away to Napoli. Dries Mertens' penalty and Fernando Llorente's late goal following an uncharacteristic Virgil van Dijk error consigned the Reds to a 4th consecutive defeat on the road to the Champions League group stages. Liverpool came into the match in fine form and with an air of invincibility, winning all 5 of its Premier League games so far this season and showing no signs of a Champions League hangover. But defending the European crown is not easy. Only one club in the competition's history has successfully retained its Champions League title. That is Real Madrid on 2 occasions. However, Liverpool will certainly not be panicking. Perhaps some will even see this as a good omen. On its way to lifting the title last season, Jurgen Klopp's side narrowly escaped the group stages despite losing all 3 of its matches away from home. In the end, they came back to secure the championships. And that has brought us to the end of our sports update for today. Back to you, Samuel.
Thanks, Kingsley. And that has brought us to the conclusion of today's news. Before we go, here's a recap of our major headlines. GCOM chair to deliver decision on election timeframe tomorrow. President awaits certificate of readiness for GCOM to name elections date. Leopold Street residents create ruckus over man shot and killed by police. Government will have no legal or legitimate status from tomorrow, says former AG. And truck driver charged for causing death of 7-year-old girl in Agricola. Thanks for watching Globespan 24/7 News. On behalf of myself, Samuel Suknanda, the news and technical team, until next time, have a pleasant rest of the evening.